Welcome to Bloodbath & Beyond. Today we review Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Things are about to get shady in Shadyside.
Directed by Leigh Janiak, starring Maya Hawke, Kiana Madeira, Benjamin Flores Jr., Julia Raywald, Fred Heckinger, and Olivia Scott Welch. Based on the book series of the same name from R.L. Stine back in the day, we grew up with Goosebumps, and when you wanted to level up from your horror books, when you had that extra money at the book fair, oh, we're getting some Fear Street, baby.
Scholastics, you know where it's at.
But this is the first movie in a trilogy, which is all coming out on Netflix like week after week after week. And it's one main story that takes place over 3 different movies.
Fantastic choice. I love this one. It's trash. Lowbrow horror.
It's not necessarily an anthology, but kinda. Shadyside, they have some past history with killings going on, and we're starting in 1994, and the next movie is 1978, and the next one is 1666. And now we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on in Shadyside because one of them seems to be being hunted by a group of killers. So what do we like? First and foremost, being a movie that takes place in 1994, this absolutely captured the vibe. Right out the gate, you hear Closer by 9 Inch Nails and you're like, I fucking love this movie. The soundtrack is absolutely nostalgic. And not only from the soundtrack, but the whole aesthetic of the movie is fantastic. We kick it off in a mall. Prime mid-90s. You've got lots of black lights, but it's also a throwback to the colors of the Fear Street books themselves. You look at the covers of those, and even like the Christopher Pike books of the same era, it's all bright pinks and bright greens and blues, and it just hits different when you were there. Like, honestly, it took me back. Like, I miss blacklight posters. I miss having black lights all over the place, and that whole intro sequence is fantastic. And you gotta kick it off strong, and they absolutely did.
This film did a great job capturing that atmosphere of a horror film, regardless of it being in the mall or whether they're in the town. When you're watching this, you almost feel like you're watching a Wes Craven film, because that's what this felt like. It felt straight out of Scream. But they were doing their own thing. They created this environment and made it their own.
Everything is extremely well shot, well set up. All of the characters were really cool. I actually wanted them all to survive, and that's exactly what you want when they're being hunted by killers, because when they get killed, you're gonna be like, are you fucking kidding me?
I said to myself, if Josh dies, I'm turning this film off and I'm gonna rage, because he was just so likable. Maybe because like all of us were in those chat rooms back in the 90s on our computer.
Do you know how expensive AOL is?
On top of that, I was in love with all of our killers. The slashers that we saw and the slashers that we haven't seen yet, this is what has me the most excited for all 3 of these films. They've introduced a movie and given us 3 killers that I can get behind and thought were fantastic. And then they just gave us little like side stories of killers we haven't seen yet that is gonna make me wanna watch the other 2 films. I am so invested. It's like watching 13 Ghosts. You see a little shot of one of the ghosts and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to see that guy. And the 3 that we got in here, I don't even know what to expect with the other ones.
They look great, they're creepy, they kill really well. Shout out to that one kill that caught everybody off guard. Not gonna spoil it, but if you ever watched Intruder, it's like that bandsaw kill was kind of dope. Well, this one's pretty up there. Shout out to Bread Slicers.
And going back to the characters in the story, you felt for every character in this film. They did a great job developing them to the point where when the film was over, you had that strong sympathy for the ones that were lost, and you had like still the concern for what was going to come next with our survivors.
And I will say, like, the end is fucking awesome because they use some camera trickery to suggest things to the audience that might not be so accurate to what you initially think. I am just so excited for the next movies, honestly. And it's just fun. And I think that's what's really important as well, is whether you grew up in the 90s or not, it's a fun ride. It's very lightweight and something you can throw on. Even being like somebody who doesn't watch a ton of horror, you could watch this and really appreciate it. So the comedy that they worked in, I think, really hit.
It was hot! I don't know! The bitch seemed normal!
Yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but normal bitches don't bleed black fucking blood!
I was also a huge fan behind the lore of Shadyside. There's still so much of the unknown that I can't wait to find out about, but they gave me so much information that it's like, I totally understand what is happening and I can get behind this. It all basically made sense.
Shadyside isn't just some hotbed for psychos. All these massacres are connected to Sarah Fear. The witch's curse is real.
Now, what didn't we like?
There is one thing that I didn't understand. The killers were only after one person, and they ran past people that they were not targeting.
I jumped out of his way and it was like he didn't even see me. He went for her.
Yet, in certain scenes, like in the hospital, they killed people in front of them. Why would the killer run past character A, but then kill random character B? I didn't understand why anyone else died other than the person they were trying to kill.
Sam bled on her bones and now the witch wants more of her blood.
Well, I thought the whole movie flowed pretty well. There was a moment where they were in the back of like the ambulance, which I thought kind of dragged a bit. I know it's so minor because the scene's like 4 minutes long, and it is kind of like a pivotal moment where you've got a group of characters that are trying to figure out what's happening and how they can move on next, and they just straight up steal an ambulance and nobody gives a shit. That's an aside from my issue. My issue was like the pacing of that one scene where they're just all in the back of the ambulance. But it is worth noting there's not a lot of outside interaction with the teens. It's like, okay, they've got a problem, they need to figure it out, and everybody else is kind of just keeping to themselves.
Yeah, and like the one character who felt out of place that probably should have had a more dominant role would have been the sheriff of the town. He came off as a character who either could have helped them or knew too much of it and could have been like a bad guy to been like, oh, like for the greater good of Shady's side, I have to like let you die or something along those lines.
Around here, people show a little respect. They call me Sheriff Good.
And if he does show up in 1978 and maybe he's like the final boy,
Who are you?
Nick Good.
the age wouldn't add up, I don't think. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. This movie absolutely nailed it. When it comes to 90s nostalgia, it was spot on, and I loved it the whole way through. The characters are really enjoyable. All of the killers that we get to see are excellent. The lore with the town is fantastic, and it makes you want more. And thankfully, we already know that we're getting more. I had a really minor issue with like a few scenes that were paced a little bit awkwardly. For the most part, the movie was just like go, 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 and I enjoyed myself the whole way through. It's a must watch and absolutely in my top 5 of the year. So I'm gonna give this 4.5 lobsters out of 5.
I was pleasantly surprised watching this film. There was just so many things, whether I was listening to the music or seeing all the figures, the technology, everything I experienced growing up, I was watching in this film. And then you throw in the horror element and it was fantastic because we had 3 ridiculously awesome killers that I would be like happy to watch standalones, especially Ruby Lane. It's just the creepy singing really like adds to like a more scary element than a slasher element.
She's so sexy, but fucking crazy.
But the film as a whole with the story, I got behind. I was invested. I wanted to learn more. I liked what they said with the lore, despite the fact that they contradicted themselves greatly with a few characters getting killed. But like, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, they didn't follow their own rules, but we got some cool deaths out of it. So I was okay with it, but it's just, if you didn't point it out, I wouldn't be complaining about it. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 4 going to pound towns out of 5.
Did you all go to Pound Town?
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, it's a Netflix original. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Link doesn't need to be in the description. Get your Netflix subscription up. And if you want another subscription, this one's totally free. Subscribe to the channel. It's Bloodbath and Beyond. We're going to be trying to cover all 3 movies. Whether or not they're timely or not, we'll see. We're just coming out of a pandemic and I want to fucking party. And I might be gone 1 or 2 weekends, so just chill out. We'll get to them.